first private money check that me and Liz ever put together was $50K, right? It was not millions of dollars. You don't have to raise millions to raise private money. It was $50K from somebody she went to college with. That's it. And then it was $75K, the next check. Then it was $300K. Then it was $500K. Then it was $1 million.
You're listening to the AZREIA Show. If you're looking for quality real estate investing information that you can trust, you've found it. Stay tuned and join the tens of thousands of members that have already benefited from AZREIA, your home for education, market information, support, and networking opportunities that will advance your real estate investing career.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the AZREIA Show. This is Marcus Maloney, your host, and we have our executive director, Mike Delpreet, our co-host. How you doing, Mike?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me, Marcus.
All right, so today we have a very special episode. If you guys know anything about Bigger Pockets, you know this guy very, very well. He's always at BPCon. He's always sharing in the forums and on the podcast, talking about raising private capital and talking about syndication. And he is Matt Faircloth, and he doesn't have his wife Liz with him, but we'll definitely have her on the show as well. But Matt is a syndicator, raises private capital, owns hundreds of doors in the Carolinas and across the country. And he works with people to show them exactly how to raise private capital within their own group. So Matt, man, welcome to the show. How are you?
Marcus, great to see you, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely, man. So for those who've been under a rock, man, don't know who you and your wife are, man, kind of give us a little bit of background about you.
We're just real estate people trying to make it happen, man. My wife and I got started investing in real estate 17 years ago when I quit my job and right when we got married, and we've been full-time investors since. We've done a lot of different asset classes of real estate. We've done fix and flips. We've done a lot of small rentals, done a few wholesales, but we also just built a business around residential real estate. And so we've been residential real estate owners and holders, and for some of that, managers for many, many years, scaled up and up and up and traded up and sold up and all whatnot, and do 1031 exchanges and everything else to increase our holdings, and had tons of investors join us as we grew, to the point where we now control a few thousand units of multifamily in 4 states.
Okay. So 4 states. What all states, Matt?
North Carolina, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and we are recovering New Jersey landlords.
Recovering New Jersey landlords.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's unpack those 17 years you just jammed in 17 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Cool, man. Wow. So, all right. So 17 years ago, you started, were you working 9 to 5? Were you already past that? So how did you make that transition from working? Maybe your wife was working too, family, I'm assuming. So how'd that go?
Yeah, I'll talk you through it. So we met in 2002, and she put Rich Dad Poor Dad in my hand while we were dating. And I'm like, okay, this is a great book. So like, and anybody out there dating someone that puts Rich Dad Poor Dad in their hand, like, marry him.
That's a keeper. Yep.
Yeah, that's a keeper, right? So I started playing his Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, and that really just got my head turned towards possibility. And at the time I was working for Ingersoll Rand. I was one of their traveling sales reps, and, drove all around the state of Pennsylvania, state of New Jersey, put about 45,000 miles a year on my car, and just driving to and from sales appointments and everything like that. And, thought I was living what a good life was. And I did. I made good money. I wasn't sure what was next for me, but I knew it was good enough at the time. But I'd also had a big sales commission check come in from selling a large amount of equipment to a company, to Minute Maid orange juice. We all heard of them, right? So I didn't know what to do with it. And it was sitting in my savings account. And I'm like, I don't know. What should I do with this? So I let it sit, and I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and my lease was ending at the apartment I was renting. And that landlord was like, well, you could buy this house if you want. And so I decided to make a play to buy the house. And we missed. I lowballed it. Somebody else came and bought it, decided they want to landlord it. So the realtor took me under their wing and said, hey man, let me help you find another house. So they took me and my 2 roommates. We're all out without a place to live now. We're all like, oh, where are we going to go? We got to move in like 3 months. So he put me into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in the next town over. And I bought it took that Minute Maid commission check, bought that house. And those 2 roommates started paying me the same amount of rent they were paying at the other property, right? Started paying me the rent there. Their rent covered my mortgage plus $60. And so I was like making a good check working for Ingersoll Rand, but I was living the rent free. And I said, oh my goodness, this girlfriend of mine, she's on to something.
Right.
And so her and I talked about how amazing it was. And that was where we both drank the Kool-Aid. And fast forward to when we got married, she was able to get herself a job that was above our expenses, and we lived lean. So lived lean, and we were able to live off of her paycheck, no kids. That enabled me to quit my job and start our company, the DeRosa Group.
So you're always fast. You're from the East Coast, so you're always fast forwarding.
I gotta learn to stop talking every here and again.
So you house hacked before it was house hack.
Before it was even called that. It was just called
exactly.
having your roommates live with you.
Yep.
It's just called having roommates back then.
Love it. Awesome, man. All right. So I just had to get that in, man.
No. It's good. It's good. I say that. I know Craig Krulot personally, the guy that wrote the House Hack book. And I'm like, yeah, man, I did that when that was just called getting by,
Yeah.
But it wasn't a strategy. Yeah. Yeah.
What did you do after that, Matt? You started that because now things are starting to turn. Wheels are starting to turn in your head. You're like, wow, this is working.
Well, not even just beyond that, Marcus, I'm like, I got to build a company now, right? I got to get going. I have to do this full time. So what do? We moved to New Jersey because the employer she was working with, she was also in a sales job. That employer required her to live in New Jersey to be close to their clients, right? So, we moved to Jersey, and we were just like the next town over, 2 towns over was Trenton. So I'm like, all right, let's check this playground out. So I worked my way into Trenton, start networking there, start finding deals. And before you know it, we had a few rentals in Trenton, and I got connected there, joined a B&I group. Business Networking International is a great way to meet people. And before you know it, we had built up a small little portfolio of rentals in Trenton, New Jersey. And that's how we got our teeth cut into the business. And we, scaled over the years, got through the downturn there, did a bunch of fix and flips around, and scaled geographically, which I think a lot of investors should pick a market and own that market for a while and then scale out. And Trenton for the longest time was my playground and my classroom too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people, they don't want to play on the East Coast because they say, hey, you know what, the taxes, the laws, everything like that. Did you run into any problems where you say, you know what, I just got to get out of New Jersey and got to go elsewhere?
You know what? Well, eventually, yes, Marcus. But you know what? When I had outgrown it, when Trenton had taught me what it was going to teach me, and when my capacity and my wherewithal had outgrown the market, yes. And I found other markets to be easy to landlord in. But guess what? There are landlords that make plenty of money landlording in markets that nobody else wants to touch every day. There are people that make lots of money in name the city that nobody wants to go anywhere near. Detroit, San Francisco, like downtown Manhattan, Brooklyn, Boston, markets that people are like, oh no, those markets are so expensive, you can't do it. People do it.
Yep.
And then they're not like just generational people that have just inherited properties that got handed down to them. People are buying real estate and making money with it in markets that you will not touch every day.
So true, man. Everyone wants to know how to raise money. Everyone wants them. So is it fair to say that having access to money is the most important thing in real estate? Or what would you say?
No, I think that business plan and market focus are more important than the money, right? And I didn't even say deals in there, right? Like a lot of times people, this is what I did my first year, right? I've made most of the lessons I teach people about real estate are like things I did wrong. Like don't do that. When I first got going, I'm like, I'm going to go invest in real estate. So one day I'm looking at the strip center. The next day I'm looking at a single family home. The next day I'm looking at a fix and flip. The next day I'm looking at a piece of land to flip, right?
Yep.
So all lots of fun, all different ways you can make lots of money in real estate, but they're all unrelated, right? So I think the most important thing, and yes, money's important, but the most important thing before that is market, business plan, focus. Once you got that, like, okay, I'm going to buy single family homes or small residential assets in Trenton, New Jersey. Once I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to buy and fix and flip them. I'm going to buy and hold them. That's what I'm going to do. Then private money comes into that. And that's something you can scale, right? If you're going to try one asset class on Tuesday and a different on Wednesday, you can't scale. It's hard. You can't scale that. You can dabble. And there's a lot of dabblers out there, but you can't scale. So private money, once you have that, private money becomes the essential piece that gets you to, you can 10X with private money.
Yeah, because private money don't want to drop money into someone that's scattered.
Yeah.
So
trust me, I know firsthand, because I tried to get private money to invest with me for when I was scattered, and they're like, yeah, let me know how that goes. And then once we started to focus, it's like the private money, first private money check that me and Liz ever put together was $50K, right? It was not millions of dollars. You don't have to raise millions to raise private money. It was $50K from somebody she went to college with. That's it. And then it was $75K, the next check. Then it was $300K. Then it was $500K. Then it was $1 million, right? Notice that wasn't like the first, second, third, fourth deal was not $1 million, right? Yeah. So once we qualified that we could raise that kind of money and we could operate with that kind of money, then we scaled up.
Okay. So Matt, let me ask you, this is the chicken or the egg question, right?
Yeah.
So when raising private money, should you have a deal, then raise the money, or raise the money, then go and find a deal?
You got to raise the money, then find the deal, because the market's not going to wait for you. I said this like pre-interest rates going up, things getting a little more weird, even pre-COVID, but I think it still holds true that sellers are not going to wait for you to assemble the money. You better have it together, have it on the shelf. And so what I did, this is what I would do, is I had money show up and say, hey, I would go to money, but now we have money show up. But back then we'd have to go find the money and say, hey, if I produce this box, this piece of real estate that produces this kind of return, this kind of risk factors, this kind of cash on cash, would you like that? Yeah, I'd love that. That sounds great. And I've got $75K to put to work, and I'll sit on it for the next 30 days until you find something. Okay. I got my marching orders now. I go find something that meets that box, and I can put their $75K to work in the deal, whether it's as a loan or whether or not it's as equity. And I've done both, meaning like I'll borrow the money from you at 9%, or I will have you come in and be my 50-50 equity partner, one of the two.
Gotcha. What do you prefer? Is it the equity position or just the loan?
If I could get people to loan me money all day long, Marcus, I'd prefer to take that, because, but you can't. I mean, there's a risk factor for me associated with that, right? They don't want to loan you money at 2, 3, 4%. They want to loan you money at, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there, right? And so when I did do a lot of fix and flips and a lot of smaller BRRRR strategy deals, which that's mainly all we did back in the day, was BRRRR and flip. I'd love to have a private loan over equity, because then I get all the upside.
Right.
Yeah. But when you end up on deals where you're not adding crazy, tremendous value, where you're only doing incremental tweaks to increase value incrementally, and you're still making cash flow along the road, you're likely not going to get that debt out. Meaning, like, let's say, Marcus, you loan me $100,000 at 9%. If I can't double the property value or whatever it is to refinance it to make you go away completely, I'm at a heavy risk taking debt from you. I'd rather take equity at that point. If I can't guaranteed BRRRR strategy make you go away, it makes more sense for me to just have you as an equity partner long term. Yeah. Depends on the short answer to that question, Marcus. Depends on the deal.
Depends on the deal. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So let's talk about, so you wrote a book on raising private capital.
I did. It's called Raising Private Capital.
Raising Private Capital. So yeah, give us some, so I know you talked about 4 personality types in order to raise money.
Yeah.
Right? All right.
Well,
so you want
there's 4 personality types, I think, to operate real estate, right? I'm the money guy. I'm the one that puts together the debt, the deal, the equity. Call me like the architect, the assembler, right? Okay. And then you've got 3 other personality types that it takes to be successful in real estate. And the reason why this came up was people were like, hey, Matt, I read your book. I love your book, but I'm not comfortable out pitching people to invest with me. I'm not comfortable talking to people about putting money into my deals, but I love keeping contractors on timeline. I love managing things that exist. I love projects and I like solving problems, right? I'm a fixer. So, okay, that person's more of a, once the money has closed on the deal, then you got to parachute in somebody else. Cause I'll tell you guys, I used to do that. And I was like, I don't know if you guys are like this, but I'm the landlord that was like, oh, tenant, your tire broke on your car or you lost your job. That's okay. Tenant, pay your rent next month. This is when I was collecting rent. I was the worst collector ever because I had the biggest heart, and I'd listen to them, right? Until I hired people that were not nice. And then they weren't nice, but they couldn't raise a nickel from anybody, but they were able to keep my trains running on time, right? It's a different personality type. So then there's that. Then there's the person that goes out and finds the deals. These are your people that are really great at like wholesalings, your deal makers, right? That are like always hustling, always looking for the next opportunity. They can look at an opportunity and say, you know what I do with that? I would turn that into an Airbnb, or I would restructure this or restructure that or whatever. They're like the creative type deal maker, and they present this thing that like, hey, I got an opportunity. This is what we ought to do, right? And then the money funds it. And then we call him the hammer manages it, right? Then you got a fourth person, and that's the underwriter. I used to do that myself because I have my background in engineering, but like the analyst, the person that lives in spreadsheets, not everybody does that. And a lot of people think that you have to know how to use Excel to be a good real estate investor. It helps, but it's not necessary. Right. And so that's the fourth person, is the numbers person that's there to assemble the financial package and build a business plan. So anyway, guys, those are the four different personalities that we think it takes to be successful in real estate. And the money's one of them. People put the deal and the money up on a shelf and think that's all there is. But there's really the analytical and the management side that's where the money's really there, on those two sides.
So if I could recap, and when you said architect, you're meaning the money raiser. Is that right? Okay. So you have architect, money raiser, and then the hammer, which I would assume is like operations.
Yeah. Like you could call it ops. In multifamily, a lot of people call it asset management or property management. Right. Yeah.
Got it. And you got the deal maker, which is self-explanatory, and then the underwriter making sure it's a deal.
We have cool names for all these things, right? So the deal maker, we call it the hunter. Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Got a cool looking logo with like a bow and arrow thing. Right. So that's the hunter. And then there's the underwriter, which they need a cool name too, because they're kind of like the nerd on the team. So we call that the brain. Right. Okay. Yeah. Make them think that they're the brains of the operation. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then ops, what do you call operations?
Operations, the hammer. Because most of the time they're the ones kind of run around and smack people in the head with a hammer until they listen. Until they do what they're supposed to. And when you just get going, the hammer might be the one that's actually with a hammer in their hand doing the work. That's okay. And
then what was the capital raiser?
It's called the money. Probably need a better name than that, but the money.
The money,
the brain, the hammer, and the hunter.
Yeah, I love it, man.
All right, Matt. So
I'm sorry.
Okay. How did you transition, Matt, from doing a small fix and flips and everything like that to start going into larger, commercial residential? I know that sounds crazy, commercial residential, but
that is though. And that is what they call it. Cause like, oh, well, above 4 units is commercial, whatever. It does kind of look at it that way. You know what it is, Marcus? I felt like, and this is partly because I was the money guy trying to be a hammer, right? Okay. So fix and flips only worked. It was like walking up to a roulette wheel, guys. It's like, is Matt going to make money? I don't know. Right. Sometimes, oh, great, he made a lot of money, or, oh, geez, he lost money, or, oh, geez, we broke even. And that's because I didn't have a good hammer on my team to drive process, to make sure contractors showed up on time and sober every day. And to, just really to create a sense of urgency. Right. The thing, the money can kind of chase shiny nickels. And so once I found the fix and flip and got my team in place, I'm on to the next one. Right. And by going on to the next one, that fix and flip that I had left to the contractor to maybe he shows up, maybe they don't. A lot of those deals would end up going either completely going south or going mediocre. Right. What I found was that what worked well was properties that I could find, lease up, and then like, build, like, kind of rinse and repeat and do it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's what worked well. That's number one. Number two, the second thing that worked was, remember the guy, the 50K guy that went to college with my wife?
Mhm.
That was 2011. That was on 2 little row homes in Trenton that we did a deal with him on. And so this guy is a financial planner by trade. Okay. So he goes and tells his friends and also a few of his clients out, like, okay, I'm working with this guy in Trenton. He's making me good money, making great returns. And before you know it, a few, like, I had a little buzz of people. And he also, sorry, I was in Trenton. He lived in New York City. So he starts pulling all this New York money down to Trenton, and I'm driving around with all these New Yorkers in their Gucci bags and their swanky suits and stuff like that, showing them scrappy Trenton. I'm running around in my Doc Martens and my blue jeans, showing them to New Jersey, right? Hey, come on, guys, it's good. It'll be fine, right? So before you knew it, that's what was starting to work. And the fix and flips are, again, roulette wheel. And so the raising capital for rentals was working over and over and over again. So I'm like, okay, let's quadruple down on what works and let's forget what maybe works, maybe doesn't. And so that's how we ended up scaling into bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger deals.
Okay.
I love it. So on this, I love how you broke down your team, the money, the hammer, hunter, and brain. So now I brought you, or let's say, like, are these all on payroll, or
No.
is it kind of like people that just source deals for you, raise money for you? Like, how do they all work together at one point?
They're my partners. And I think that we decided to build, instead of focusing on doing deals, I decided I'm going to build a company. I'm going to build a brand. And then if you focus on a specific asset class and a specific acquisition strategy, it's easy to do. And I used to kind of hustle my way through, like, okay, let's find a deal. Let's find who's going to help me with that. I'll partner up with that person, try this, try that. And it's kind of like a beginner way to get into real estate. But once you kind of find your team that you want to do stuff over and over with, it makes sense to just have long-term equity with people. And so my hammer, my asset manager, Justin, he is a partner. My hunter, who really, they feed the top of the funnel. The hunter really feeds the machine. They're also a partner as well. So there's three partners in our company, and the underwriter is the one that's very easy to outsource. And that one works for my hunter partner. He has an underwriter that works underneath his umbrella. The underwriter gets some equity and they get like a big fat bonus when we close deals, but they are underneath our umbrella, and they're not a partner on the team. They're a team member.
Got it.
And Liz runs it all.
Yeah, she's the architect. No, Liz is like a board member. I mean, Liz keeps busy running her 20,000 women and 60 meetups she's got across the country and whatnot. Liz keeps herself busy enough doing all that. So Liz is more like a board member. And we do work together regularly as husband and wife, but her role now is more as like an advisor to the board of DeRosa Group.
Okay, so I'm pieced together because I came in late. So Liz is your wife.
Yes.
Who is also
right.
The InvestHer network.
Yes. Yes.
Got it.
Her and Andressa, who I heard y'all interviewing tomorrow, started InvestHer. That's an evolution that I'll let Andressa tell the story of how InvestHer came to be, but it's a beautiful story and it is a needed initiative in that, but they kind of, like, it was by happenstance. It was just started out as them just doing a podcast because it was fun. They wanted to talk about women. And before you know it, it's like, this enormous community. And Liz used to be our investor relations manager. Like, when investors would come in, she would do the onboarding. She would handle getting them their K1s or their tax returns or whatever it is. But InvestHer became bigger and bigger, and our network of investors became bigger and bigger. So we kind of outgrew each other and just having my wife help me out anymore. So there was more work that needed to get done than she could do. And so we had to hire out her position.
Love it. All right, cool, man.
Okay,
So
perfect.
Since you're the money guy, so what are some tips for, people getting into single family, small multifamily?
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for their first 50 grand, their first 100 grand. What are some activities they can do to build their reputation or raise some money for their deals?
Yeah. So first thing you want to do is you want to understand that money hides in plain sight, right? Those that look like they have money normally don't, right? And so like it does it like the person with like the enormous house and the fancy pants car might not be the person that's going to invest in your business. That person may be what I call broke at another level. like they're just broke up here versus broke down here. Right. So, yeah. Right. So the real money is probably somebody who lives lean, lives conservatively. So a few tips, right? If you got somebody in your network that has had a few job promotions, but's never increased their quality of living, or anybody that's lived in their house for more than 7 or 8 years has certainly built up some real estate equity they could tap. So, secondly, anybody that's transferred jobs, right? Anybody that's had their job transfer in the last couple of years, right, has a phenomenal resource that they don't even know they can put to work with you, and that's called a self-directed IRA, right? And they don't even realize it. They just think that the retirement account they had at job A now is just something that that they've earned and just sits there until they retire. Not true. Because they don't work for that company anymore, it's an IRA, not a 401k. And there's a great tool I can unlock with it. They can roll that IRA over to self-directed, and that money can then go to work in your business. And something like 97% of IRAs in America are involved in anything else outside of Wall Street. Or I'm sorry, are involved. 97% of IRAs are in Wall Street. 3% are in something else. It's an enormous opportunity to untap. And so we all know people that have retirement accounts that could go somewhere else. So that's what I would do, is to make your money. And in raising private capital, I recommend this to be your first step, is to make your money list. Just sit down and pull up your cell phone. Start making your people that are fairly, financially savvy, that aren't like living hand to mouth, that maybe realize that there's something else out there for them, and start telling them about real estate investing and how this great, AZREIA organization that they're a part of, they heard Matt Faircloth and they heard this and they heard that. Educate them, teach them about real estate investing. And before you know it, you'll have raving fans. I mean, when my wife and I approached the guy she went to college with, when she approached him, he said, real estate investing, that's interesting. I sure wish I could get involved in that too. I just don't have the time. And that's almost always the response. I wish I could do that too. I just don't have the time. And the response that you should have is, what if you don't have to have the time? What if I got the time? What if I could put the time, you put the money, and we can both benefit each other?
Simple as that. Yep.
Yeah.
We always say that. 2 parts of every deal: knowledge and time, money and credit.
Yeah, that's it. And they are equal. And a lot of times people put one above the other. And I would never work with an investor that made their money more important than what I brought. It's got to be viewed as a mutual thing. You're not doing me a favor investing with my company. You are not gracing me with your dollars. I'm giving you an opportunity. Yes, you're putting my dollars in my deal, but I'm giving you a phenomenal opportunity to make returns and to get exposed to something you can't get exposed to on Wall Street. I can give it to you. They can't.
Love it. Man. So true.
Yeah.
All right, Marcus.
So I know you're the money guy, Matt, but what do you guys look for? What does the hunter specifically look for the DeRosa Group? So is there a certain number of units?
Yeah.
Is there a certain location? What are you guys looking for?
So we do not invest anywhere in the continental United States. We used to be the company before I met my hunter man, my man Hervé. His name's Hervé Francois. A little plug for him. Before I met him, we thought a state was a market.
Got it.
We'd be like, we're investing in North Carolina. We're investing in Pennsylvania. And he was like, man, what are you kidding me? Like a state's like that. That's not it. That's like, 30 MSAs. That's not one market, like I can't call Arizona a market. Well, what are you at? Phoenix, you're in Scottsdale, you here, you there, right? There's a lot of markets. And so what Hervé taught us is to be super, super specific. And so with him working through us, we've expanded it out heavy in Lexington, Kentucky, not Louisville, not Richmond, not any other parts of Kentucky, just Lexington. And then Winston-Salem and Greensboro, the Piedmont Triad of North Carolina. That's where we are, not Fayetteville, not other parts. Not that we don't like those markets, but because there's power of focus. So that's the first thing he looks for, is things that are in the markets that we want to be in and not in the markets that we've not picked. So that we're not judging those other markets. But what I've seen firsthand through him teaching me is that the power of focus, like an example, we've got one contractor that does almost all of our work in Kentucky. because I've got a bunch of assets there. And so because as you scale up, you can start commanding more attention from everybody, property managers, contractors, everybody. And so that flows over to our asset management side. And it's like, hey, I got a voice now. I can wave my hand in the air and they actually listen, the property manager, because I own enough in their market. I'm a big enough customer. I've become a big enough fish that it makes that, and it's only by focus that we've allowed to do that. That's what enables us to do that. Secondly, Marcus, is value add, meaning like, the current owner is charging this much in rent, and we can expand it to this much in rent by increasing rents or by doing renovations and making the property worth more by doing what's called a value add program. And so that's that's a typical business plan that we look for, is where I can take a property and clean it up, take it to the next level, maybe get some of the crime out, clean up some of the issues the property has.
Attention, all female investors. AZREIA is excited to announce our good friends are coming to town. Don't miss out on the InvestHer event in Scottsdale, Arizona on May 18th and 19th. Join us for 2 days of networking, workshops, and keynote speeches from successful female investors. Attend InvestHer and make valuable connections and gain the confidence you need to take your investing to the next level. Don't wait. Click on the link in the show notes and get more details and the best pricing for InvestHer in Scottsdale, Arizona on May 18th and 19th, or visit azreia.org/calendar to secure your spot. We can't wait to see you there.
Amazing, man.
Wow, Matt, that's very important. That power of focus that's definitely key, because there's a lot of real estate investors, and I've been guilty of it, and I'm pretty sure we all have, to where it's like, wow, what, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do all of these different things, and then you just become scatterbrained and you don't get anything done.
Well, we all love good deals, right? So I think most real estate investors suffer from Shiny-Nickel syndrome, right? It's like, oh, New Orleans, I want to invest in New Orleans. Oh, wait, not New Orleans. How about Memphis? Are you here? And what's the worst? You hear somebody else talking about a market and you're like, man, I'm gonna look at that market too, because there's a lot of good markets out there. And it's not that your market's any better than theirs is. It's just that if you focus, it opens up a lot of opportunities to leverage, cost sharing, and to leverage relationships, and to leverage all kinds of different stuff. So that's why you want to focus, not because you chose the best market ever that's ever created the entire universe. It's just that, the more you invest in that market, the better off you're going to do.
So true.
So true. So Matt, wrapping up here, man, how can we get in contact with you? How can we find you? I know you and Liz are going to be here in May, but even if one of our members wanted to reach out to you before then, how can we find you?
We're not hard to find. DeRosaGroup.com, DEROSA Group.com. Just go to our website and you can learn more stuff about the 4 quadrants you and I talked about. We do property tours, like we call them retreats, where people come and hang out at our apartment buildings with us for a couple of days. You can meet the site staff, tour units, look at stuff before and after. There's nothing like the way you learn how to buy an apartment building, we think, is by going and actually looking at an apartment building, putting boots on the ground. And so we provide that. And for those that want to invest passively, the biggest thing, if you're a fix and flipper, or if you're a wholesaler making lots of money doing wholesales and fix and flips, hopefully, better than I was able to do, then you have a great opportunity to wash out a lot of the money you make on those fix and flips and wholesales by investing passively in multifamily and enjoying the tax losses that multifamily can show on paper, to pull down the income you're making through your active business. And you can learn all that through at DeRosa Group.
All right, guys. So you know exactly what to do. You want to reach out to Matt, go to DeRosaGroup.com, get more information. Matt, it was definitely a pleasure to spend time with you on today. I know we just scratched the surface, so much more, but I love the 4 quadrants. I love how you talk about your transition. I love the power of focus. With so much there, guys. So listen to this episode over again. Because I don't want you guys to gloss over anything, because there's definitely a lot of fruit in this episode here. So Matt, thank you so much for being here with us.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. All right, guys. Absolutely. That's another episode complete. Thank you again, Mike, for being here with us, Matt for being with us, and you guys know exactly what to do.
Thanks for listening to the AZREIA Show with your hosts, Marcus Maloney and Mike Delpreet. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found this information valuable, head over to AZREIA.org and learn more about our community.